Within Alaska's Wrangell-St. Elias National Park and Preserve lies a relic from a bygone era, the Kennecott Mines. This historic copper mining town followed the same path as many other company towns. The discovery of an abundance of raw resources led to a sharp boom in production, and when that resource eventually ran dry, there was an even sharper bust. While Kennecott was completely abandoned and left to slowly decay, a town less than a mile away from the desolate ruins of the mining village is currently thriving. The town of McCarthy got its start in the early 20th century and became the go-to destination for off-shift miners. McCarthy started small, just offering basic amenities for them, such as a bar and brothel. And because of Kennecott's strict prohibition on alcohol, McCarthy thrived. To learn more about this area and the people that live here, the Northern Light sat down with two local historians, Patricia Garrett, the current docent of the McCarthy-Kennecott Museum, and a former employee of the museum, Diane Millard.
I think retention of some of the higher employees was difficult, and so if they built nice homes with modern conveniences and a good hospital, the wives would come and have children here, and so there were schools. And I'm still in contact with what we call Kennecott kids. They're people that grew up there. They're in their 90s now, that have excellent educations and have wonderful childhood memories of growing up in Kennecott. And even in a couple of years in McCarthy, when the mine closed one year, the price of copper went down, and they came down here and waited it out. And they're just so thrilled that they had this childhood in this place.
Yeah, it was a special place now. It was a special place then. Mm-hmm. And it was a really modern work camp. The hospital was the second best hospital in Alaska. The only hospital bed was in Fairbanks. Mm-hmm. It was the first hospital in Alaska to have an x-ray machine. It was a place where people came from miles around to go to the hospital.
Ladies could have babies there safely.
When the mine closed in the late 1930s, the population of McCarthy quickly fell from its peak of over 120 residents in the 1920s to less than 50 by 1950.
Did that here, and McCarthy was R&R town for Kennecott, but it also had its own life besides that. And Kennecott is very, very important to McCarthy. McCarthy wouldn't be here without Kennecott, but it also was a supply town for a lot of independent mines. Throughout the area, and it was also the jumping off spot for Shoshana, which was the last big gold rush in Alaska. And so there were a lot of other things besides Kennecott that made McCarthy thrive. But McCarthy wouldn't have been here without Kennecott, and when they closed the railroad down, that pretty much killed McCarthy as a town. It's not like everybody left, but most people left. And it was a settlement.
Two people stayed that had been here, and they were the watchman and the person that forwarded the mail. They were part of Kennecott still. They were working for Kennecott or whatever Kennecott was calling itself. But there wasn't much else here except maybe a few old prospectors. There were even people that had been to the Klondike that were here because these guys kind of traveled in a pod. The Klondike, Nome, Nazina, Shoshana, McCarthy. But then was it ever really a ghost town?
It was never.
And
Kennecott was completely abandoned, but McCarthy wasn't.
McCarthy is unique in that after its boom and bust, it has been able to recover and enter a new boom era, caused not by resource extraction, but by tourism. Starting around the early 1980s, McCarthy has worked towards rebranding itself as a unique tourist town. During the summer months, people from all over the world flock to McCarthy to enjoy the beautiful scenery offered by the nearby national park, and to explore the abandoned Kennecott. Since 2010, their population has grown from only 26 year-round residents to over 120, with around 300 who live during the summer. This 300% increase in population has helped breathe new life into their community.
This is really a spectacular place. And people, I think you either get it and you put down roots, or you don't get it and you just can't wait to get out again as fast as the road.
It's not an easy place to be.
No, it's not.
We call it the Do It the Hard Way Club, but it's very rewarding. the same time.
And there's a very deep community spirit. We're skipping kind of to today's community. There's groups of people that have everybody's back, and it just seems like they show up at the right time, and they've got the tube of caulking or the coffee rock that you might need.
Yeah.
And that's reciprocated all the time. But there's also more and more people coming. There's more and more land that's opened up, and there's newcomers. And now we worry because things are being stolen at our mail shack. And
Yeah, the things have definitely changed.
things have changed. And that's growth. Those are growing pains. And some people, like the saloon down here, envisions more growth and more growth. And the sky's the limit. And then there's others that just say, oh, I just want to come out here and have my wood stove. And Diane still works. She works for the Park Service, and I work in seasonal and come out here in the summer. But I struggle sometimes with the influx of tourists.
All of us who have been here for a while, we all struggle with that, except for the very, very, very few who are actually the ones who are embracing that new community.
And those are
They
what
are
I call the
definitely the
industrial,
minority.
the industrial revolution of this century, the robber barons. And there are some here that want to develop more.
Very few residents are from McCarthy. The vast majority choose to move here. Because of this, McCarthy has its own distinctive community.
Well, that's one thing that's super unique about McCarthy, and it's one thing that has helped to make McCarthy so very special, is that this is not a town where people have storied roots. Everybody here is here because this is exactly where they want to be. There is no continuation. People your age, yes, there's a continuation where their parents had moved here.
Maybe.
But people our age, there's nobody here who has family history here.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody who lived here back in the mining days stayed. I mean, some of the people that, like, it was never deserted, but the people who did stick around and it wasn't deserted were loners, people on their own, prospectors, old prostitutes, yeah. They didn't have children. Their children didn't grow up here.
They're buried in the McCarthy Cemetery.
And when people started moving back in the 80s, that's about when the history of modern McCarthy starts.
A big question looms over the town. Should they keep expanding to allow for more growth, or should they keep the town small? People move here to get away from the city life, but every summer more and more people flock to McCarthy. Right now the town is split on that question. Regardless as to which way they go, McCarthy will always be a unique town with very unique people. Patricia shared a story of a tourist from Ireland who just couldn't bring himself to leave after a visit.
They came with some friends. He's from Dublin, and as he's crossing the footbridge to leave, he says, I can't leave. And he flips a coin, and he didn't even say what was what. It just whatever came up. He said, oh, that means I stay. And he spent 6-7 weeks going around working odd jobs for food, camping in a tent. This is a city guy from Dublin.
And he's like, oh, I should go now. And then he doesn't go. He cannot leave. He cannot bring himself to leave this place.
And he ends up being our prom queen and in a golden lame dress for the 4th of July. And he's found his home. And he still comes back. So it's a very eclectic group.
Mm-hmm.
We're a very accepting group. But I also think we have a real strong sense of right and wrong. That you don't steal from people. If you've got something that they might need, you share it. I don't think we're a selfish or conniving group for the most part. It's a very giving group, and we may not be our blood family, but we've adopted people and we've made our heart family.
Yeah.